Hello, Elle.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh yeah, great. I'm always great. I'm always happy to see you as well. So just to start with, tell me some facts about yourself.
So my name is Elle and I'm a wedding photographer from Birmingham, but travel all over the UK. I have two children called Luna and Atlas. And yeah, I'm also very conveniently married to a videographer. So we get together a lot.
We'll meet him at a later date.
At a later date, yeah.
Amazing. So what did you do before you did all that? So what was life before wedding photography? What did you do back then?
I studied photography at university in Nottingham, at Nottingham Trent. And after graduating, spent the first year just in a very kind of just a sales job in retail. Wasn't kind of anything that I wanted to do long term, but just kind of like a stop fill kind of thing. And then I had our daughter Luna. And whilst on maternity leave, I started up a photo booth business. So going to weddings and parties and things, doing all those silly photographs of people with props and mustaches and wigs and stuff, which was great. But yeah, that's how I kind of springboarded into the kind of wedding world, I guess. And somebody just kind of on a whim asked, could I take some snaps for them as well as do the booth? And that's kind of where it all started. And from there, it just kind of grew and grew.
So you actually got into weddings way earlier than I even realized then.
Yeah. Well, we were with the booth, we did a couple of weddings, but mostly it was kind of parties and house parties. And we did a couple of like charity events and things like that. So, yeah, a couple of weddings, but we weren't the main event, I guess.
And when you were studying photography, did you know back then that you wanted to shoot weddings? Like, what kind of photography did you want to get into back then?
So absolutely did not want to do weddings when I was at university. It was kind of, I guess, a little bit of the kind of butt of the joke if you said that you wanted to be a wedding photographer when you were studying photography at university, and people kind of looked down on it a little bit. And I suppose there's this sort of belief that it's very cheesy and it's not real, artistic photography and that kind of thing. And that was how I viewed it when I was studying at university. And I guess a lot of the work that I did back then was very kind of sort of art, conceptual stuff, a bit sort of weird, and it was just a bit experimental, I guess.
Not very photo boothie then.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there was no wigs involved. Actually, no, that's a lie. There was a wig involved for my final show, and it was very bizarre. We got somebody to cut the wig whilst they were wearing it, and it was all very odd.
I like it. That is conceptual.
Yes.
When you did the photo booth, was it like new photo booths these days?
It was very basic.
They're quite cool now. They're like boxes and everything's built in. Was this like you were there with your camera interacting? Nice.
Yeah, no, it was very it was really quite basic, and it was the humble backdrop and tripod kind of setup. Nice. But it was good fun. So me and Ben did it together, and Ben was actually the kind of front man of it, I guess. He was the person who was kind of taking the shots and getting people to do like silly stuff. And I was actually sat with my laptop editing them like in real time. Amazing. So I don't know why, but I'd got this image in my head that I wanted them to all look like proper, pristine kind of studio setup, but with mustaches and hats. So yeah, I was there kind of like editing out all of the creases in the backdrop because we could never quite get it kind of straight, and making everyone's skin look really smooth. And then we had this like really rubbish little printer that used to like print off one at a time, and it was really Amazing. Slow. It wasn't a great setup, but it was good fun, and it was definitely a good experience. And
that's basically got you into shooting weddings.
Yeah. So because whilst we were doing the photo booth, I was still working at the shop in Birmingham, and a friend who worked in the adjacent shop to the one that I was in was getting married, and she'd asked if I could do the photo booth, but she'd sort of said, oh, we can't afford, these big budget photography prices. Can you just come and take a few snaps in the day? There's no pressure, just take what you can. And that will be fine, as long as we get some of us and our family, that's fine. So I did that, and I literally had no idea what I was doing on that day, by the way, because I can remember going into the ceremony room, and I had never been to a wedding. So I'd never even attended a wedding as a guest, and went to the front, and I said to one of the groomsmen, so what happens now? And he was like, I think she's going to come in. And I was like, oh,
that's so funny.
Okay. So I just completely winged it on the day. I borrowed a camera from my sister's boyfriend because my camera was just completely useless. And yeah, just totally winged it. But from that, put a couple of those shots on Facebook as kind of like, hey, look what I've done. And I got several people going, oh, wow, can you do mine? Can you do mine? And it literally snowballed from there. And she put them on her Facebook, and I'd got some of her friends who were getting married that wanted me to do theirs. I'm guessing that she didn't tell them that I didn't know what I was doing. But
you didn't as well.
Yeah, I know. It's just all basically just been, just fake it till you make it, essentially. And yeah, now I'm full time.
That's cool. Just like as a segue back into the photo booth thing, I've always been curious about the photo booth thing, because it's like what is the point of those pictures? Do you know if there's like a guy with a horse's head on over his actual head, and you can't even tell who it is half the time?
No.
Anyway,
we had one of those horses' heads,
Yeah.
But
did you have to stop people stealing it and taking it back to the dance floor?
Oh, all the time. We had so many people break things and steal things, and we were running after people the whole time. But the weird thing is, and it's funny that you should say, oh, what are those photographs for? Because there are people who I have on my Facebook. I'm talking as if I use Facebook all the time, because I've mentioned it so much. I don't use it at all. But I have people still on my Facebook who we've done the booth for, and they still have the photo booth photograph of like them and their friends as either their profile picture or like, the cover background photo or whatever at the back. They still have it, and it must be like 8-9 years ago that we were doing that. So yeah, it's weird because they don't really mean anything, and yet people love them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I was judging it in a way, but I wasn't trying to be judgmental of it. But
no,
it's just always made me wonder of like, sometimes I'll be, because obviously it still happens now. It's not like it hasn't died out, so that shows you how popular it is as a thing. But even now, I'll be like, there'll be a photo booth at the wedding, and I'll see it, and you can't. Everybody's got something completely covering their face.
Yeah.
And I always think afterwards the bride and groom will be like, I think that is like that's so. Yeah. And then the other one's going, no, that's not. And then it's like, look at his trousers. He wasn't wearing those trousers.
That's Dave with the zebra head on.
Exactly. But, so going back to that, you shot your first wedding, and then other people started asking you to shoot their weddings.
Yeah.
Were you able? And then you mentioned as well that when you were studying photography, it was there was lots of conceptual art in it, and that kind of did any of that come into that first wedding? Is that why you feel like people were like, oh, we want pictures like this? Were you able to bring some of that stuff from the uni days into those first weddings?
Possibly. It's funny because we quite often talk about this. I feel like in the early days of shooting weddings, I feel like both Ben and I were an awful lot braver than we are now. And we took so many more risks, and we did things that were maybe not considered like the done thing or the trend at the time, or things that were cool, but things that we just wanted to try. And I feel like in that sense, we were a lot more creative then than we are now, because you tend to get kind of wrapped up in kind of what looks nice or what you see a lot of from Instagram and other people, and you take, inspiration from other people's stuff. Whereas in those days, I didn't know any other wedding photographers, so I was going completely off what I thought looked cool, and so I was just taking risks in that sense. So yeah, I guess in a sense, it was a lot more artistic I hate that word in that way, but you know what I mean. It was a lot more risky and a lot more creative.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of that pressure comes from, in a way, back then you wouldn't have felt like you were being booked because of the way you do it. Like, so you were just being booked as a wedding photographer with basically freedom to do whatever you want, and I guess you were charging less and all that kind of thing. And also the industry was different back then. I feel like couples didn't have anywhere near the same expectations they have these days. So there's probably a lot of reasons behind that.
I reckon for the first 12 months, I was just running around weddings like a complete headless chicken, just not knowing what I was doing at all, just going, let's do this. And just like basically, I don't know, just doing whatever, because
just go with the flow.
Yeah, I just was complete it was manic, it was wild, because I remember working with another photographer, and she went, you need to stop running around. Because I was just like, oh, there's a grandma over there. Oh, there's somebody playing croquet over there. Like, it was just like, I have to capture everything all the time, absolutely everything at once. And and I have since learned that maybe that's not necessary, or the right way, that not that it's not the right way, but not the way that I work.
There's a lot to be said for not knowing what the rules are. You know, like I think I'm sure it's true of a lot of creative industries, but there's a lot of rules that are like not real rules, but they're rules that are given to us. As the longer you do this, and the more people you meet, like you say, you'll have met that photographer, and they're like, you don't do it this way. Like, you're not supposed to do that. So, and before you learn any of those rules, there's a lot to be said for the way you're able to work without the rules in your head. And as soon as you got the rules in your head, it's like, oh, which of these rules are? And then you'll hear what a rule that disagrees with another rule, and you're like, well, which one's the correct rule? And I remember meeting you for the first time, and you were, and at the time, I seem to remember you were shooting with one camera body and just one lens. That's all you had, one body, one lens. Yeah. And I remember you telling me, and maybe I did a face or something, and you were like, "Is that bad?"
Yeah. And I had the camera that I can remember had one card slot in it. And I can remember saying that, I think it was at that workshop that we met, and it was at lunchtime or something, and somebody was like, oh, what do you shoot with? And I said, well, I can't even remember what it was now. And they said, oh, is that like dual card? And I was like, no, it's just one. And they were like, and I just remember being like, oh, maybe I think that might be not very good, because it solicited that reaction. But yeah, it's funny what you say about rules. Yeah. Because I saw something this week that really made me kind of sit back and think, like, this is, it changes the game. So I think social media dictates an awful lot about how we shoot weddings and things like that. And I saw a reel this week about things that are in and things that are out. Yeah. And one of the things was golden hour sunsets are out.
Wow.
And the time after sunset, where it's like blue light, is in. Okay. And I remember like watching that video and being like, but I loved sunset. Like, I love it. I get really excited by it. And I feel like the photographs that people get from it, they also get really excited about it and they really like them. And it's almost like, well, don't say that because you're spoiling it now. And I think it's funny how other people and social media and how huge that is. It definitely affects how we all shoot now.
Definitely does. And, stuff like that. I mean, stuff like that should get in the bin, the whole in and out thing anyway. But it's like, why does one have to be in and one have to be out? Like, can't they both exist? Like,
can't you do both? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's weird stuff like that. But, like I wrote an article about it the other day, but the thing about social media is, on the one hand, we could come off social media and stop seeing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't be aware of it. But the trouble is our clients are on social media and our clients are seeing all that stuff. So I think it's much better for us to see that stuff. Yeah. Knowing that they're seeing it and knowing that could be driving the market in one way. Anyway, that's like a bigger debate and bigger discussion. But yeah, it's sad. All that rules stuff is sad because it just stifles creativity in a lot of ways. But just to get a bit more
And
superficial.
it doesn't. Sorry, just very quickly. It doesn't, because all of the new kind of the new look of the evening photographs of couples, where people are doing portraits of, like that very focused, flash front on kind of thing. I would have never dreamed of doing that in a million years about 3 years ago. I would have thought it looks awful, it looks rubbish. And actually, now that I've tried it, I'm like, oh, I love this. And so it does stifle it, but also sometimes it can maybe make me try stuff again. And
yeah. And that's the thing with fashion, though. That's like a fashion thing in general. Like take creativity out of it. But like there's and I've spoken to a few people about this lately. But this whole this thing about socks, right? You're not allowed to wear ankles. You're not allowed to wear ankle socks anymore. You have to wear pulled up socks.
Yeah.
So it's the same with like that's just like a normal fashion thing. And I think it's exactly the same thing. Like when that first began to happen, people were like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Who pulls their socks up?"
Yeah.
Now everyone pulls their socks up, and now you can't leave the house unless your socks are pulled up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And applying it straight back onto creativity, the direct flash thing started to happen. And then I saw it instantly. A lot of it. I mean, do you remember it was when Brooklyn Beckham got married?
Yeah.
And that was that's what really, I think, made it a mainstream style trend in photography. And everyone's initial reaction was like, "This looks terrible. This is so amateurish. This is so awful. This is so easy to do.
Yeah.
I can't believe it." And all this like judgment. And then lo and behold, that became the fashion. And now that's taken on. People call it a trend. I think it's actually more respectful to call it the fashion.
Yeah.
And because I actually think it looks great. And I think, especially like your style is different to my style. I think it fits really nicely into like the style that you shoot. So you can't ignore this kind of stuff. And fashion, that's why fashion is fashion. But yeah, that's another debate. Well, we've created 2 debates for a future.
Yeah.
So let's get like really superficial for back into the land of the superficial for a second. What cameras do you shoot with these days?
So currently I have a Sony A9 and an A7. I would really like to change to both A9 IIs, but that's a dream for a bigger bank balance day, I think.
Yeah, I mean we've all got those.
Yeah. But I changed from Canon to Sony about 4 years ago, I think. About 4 years. No, 5 years ago. It was 2019. 2029 in the future.
Yeah, back to the future. Mental. Is it an A7 III and an A9 1? Is that what you've got?
Yes. I've got them in.
And did you still have obviously going back to the whole jokey thing about when we first met and you were like one body, one lens, one card. Would you say you still have even though now you've got like 2 bodies, multiple lenses and more cards than that, would you still have quite a simple approach, would you say?
Yeah, I'm literally the least. I mean, it's funny because I've heard lots of people say this recently, but I'm literally the least techie person that you will ever come across in this industry. I just had to check the camera body to see what the number was on the front of it.
Nice.
I don't know. It doesn't connect with my brain in the same way as just like being connected with the people who are in front of me and being in that moment and trying to create stuff. That's what I thrive from. And it seems to have worked so far.
Definitely. So why then, if that's your mindset, why do you want to upgrade your cameras to A9 IIs? This is just a question. Like why?
Because I feel like I'm starting to not trust the ones that I've got.
That's an okay answer. If you'd suddenly started bringing up like jargony stuff, I'd be like, you're a fraud.
Yeah.
But anyway, I won't do that. But no, that's cool. I mean, so obviously and how much of again, going back to the fact, because not many people who are wedding photographers ever studied photography. So I think that's quite a unique thing about you. And how does any of that stuff still come into your work? Like the stuff that you would have studied and learned back then? So I use the word study in a very, very loose, broad way, in the sense of I feel like I came out of university
basically none the wiser. And I would not advise anyone to go and study it if you're anything like me, because it was lovely and I had a great time, but I got out of uni and was like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Like they took all the fun out of it, and I don't feel like university days don't come into my photography now at all, really. I feel like everything that I do now, I feel like I've taught myself along the way.
It's weird. I think that about education and creativity in general. Like the education side can suck the creative side out of creativity. Like one of my sons, who he's nearly 16, just finishing school, an obsessive musician, plays guitar, has just finished studying GCSE music, and it's his least favorite subject that he studied at GCSE. And music is his life, his obsession. And it's the thing he's looked forward to the least every week at school is his music lessons.
That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah. But anyway, same thing for you, obviously, from the uni thing. Yeah.
I mean, I went into, so after doing A-levels, I went to do a foundation degree or course, I guess. It's like a 1-year thing, just to kind of figure out which art subject I actually wanted to study further. And I really thought that I wanted to go into illustration. I always was more of a fine artist at school, and being a scatterbrain, like quick drawings and quick sketches have always been what I have thrived off doing. And so I just thought that I was going to end up doing like illustration-y type stuff. And I got in to do the course and I just was like, nope, this is like absolutely not what I thought it was going to be. Don't like it, can't do it. Everyone else is so fantastic and I'm there going, doing these quick little things, and it just wasn't right, that it wasn't a right fit. And I just fell into photography because I don't even know why. Like, I can't even give you a reason why. It was kind of the next thing along that I thought, why not? And it just kind of went from there.
It's mad to think, really, that like, would you to wonder whether you would be a photographer now if you hadn't been a photographer back then? Like, it's mad to think maybe because you love being a photographer now.
Yeah.
It's mad to think that if you hadn't studied, even though it was a bit of, obviously back then, the way you're talking about it, like a bit of a waste of time, all this, that, and the other. I wonder if you hadn't studied it back then, whether you would be a photographer now or whether you'd be doing something totally different. But again, that's probably a discussion for another day.
Who knows?
So let's just talk about like style and approach and stuff. And how would you in general describe your style of wedding photography?
Oh boy. How would I describe my style? I would like to say that it is quite romantic, quite candid, not very fussy. I like emotion. I mean, everyone always says this, don't they? Like, I love capturing like proper emotion as opposed to forced emotion. I think just making people feel at ease. And I just really would quite like people to look back at their photographs and it just be like, oh yeah, remember that. And, that kind of feeling of all of those heightened emotions on the wedding day. Like, how nice would it be to look back and get a little glimpse into feeling that again? That would be so lovely.
And we kind of fall into one of two camps, documentary or editorial. And then there's lots of middle ground where you're a bit of one and a lot of the other, a lot of one and a bit of the other, that type of thing. But I would say yours is more towards the editorial end of that. I
absolutely agree. So I would say on the seesaw of documentary editorial, my seesaw definitely is more heavyweight on the editorial side of things. So an example of that is I saw somebody talking about the buttonhole, men putting on buttonholes in the morning, and how they don't jump in and help because they want to capture that fumbliness and, like no one really knows how to do it and they want to, get that. I would like people to feel like they look the best that they possibly can in that moment. So I'll always instruct first and then take the shot. Cool. So I think, I want people to feel like they look $1 million on their wedding day and, not kind of falling over or, bumbling around.
Yeah, no, I would say no. I mean, I know you and your work anyway, but looking at your work, it's obvious that beauty is high on your list of priorities. Like the fact that the pictures look beautiful is high on your list of creative priorities.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I always get like a little, like, yay, when something looks really nice. No, definitely.
And I've got two questions. I'm trying to think which direction to go in. One, let's say this first because it kind of leads straight in from that. But the look at like your edit look is very different to the in-camera look. So, like for instance, the reason I'm asking this, my edit look is almost identical to the way my pictures look in camera, and that's how I've kind of built the way that my pictures look. So, how much sometimes do you have to like visualize how it's going to look edited while you're shooting?
I think like constantly.
Okay.
Look, when you shoot as much as we all shoot, what's going to look nice when you've edited it, and what's not, and what lighting conditions will work best with how you edit things and how you want the end product to look. So I think we're all doing that constantly, are we not?
No, I think so. I just mean like, I don't think I am doing that constantly because
really?
I always feel like the picture I'm seeing in my camera is the picture. Like it's the edit and everything. That's how I see my pictures on the screen of my camera.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have to think about colors or what I'm going to do to certain colors in the edit. But that's cool. It's cool. Maybe I am thinking about it constantly but subconsciously.
Yeah, I think I do subconsciously.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. And the second question I had was that I know, and I'm asking this question because I already know half the answer, but I know it's important to you, for instance, to feel like you can kind of promise every couple the same set of pictures. So I know I'm not saying you shoot like to a formula, but I know you kind of have a thread that runs through your work that you want to be able to achieve at every wedding. How important is that to you, and why is that an important thing to you?
Yeah. I do have a certain set of things that I feel like work best for the way that I work, and I know that I can achieve nice things from them. So obviously every wedding is different, but the majority of weddings run along a kind of sort of cookie cutter kind of process. So I know that in each of those kind of cookie cutter sections, I can make the most out of that. So I know that there's certain tick boxes that I can get, which make up a really, really nice gallery. And I have found just through doing lots of weddings, certain ways of doing things that I feel like I can almost control that situation and make it work to my advantage. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And how much of that is, so obviously there's going to be two sides to that. One is that the couples know what they're going to get from you, like on a basic level. They don't know everything because you're still going to capture the unscripted, the stuff that happens in and around that kind of cookie cutter thread or whatever you called it. The second thing is, does it give you peace of mind, like knowing you've like ticked your boxes, to give you more peace of mind that then frees you up to go and capture all the stuff? Yeah,
definitely. Also, I think it's worth saying that I feel like everybody has their own little mini tick box.
Oh, they do, yeah.
So I don't want to feel like I'm too like sort of contrived. Is that the right word? When I'm shooting weddings.
That's not what I meant at all.
But yeah, no, it does give me peace of mind because I feel like I feel like I've done a good job if I know that I've got all of the stuff that I think that they're going to need. And we also I talk to all of my clients beforehand very, very extensively. Like I have very long Zoom calls with people like 2 weeks out from their wedding, and we go through pretty much every single section of the day in great detail so that I know exactly what they're expecting from me. And so that I know that I have ticked off all of those things so that there are no unpleasant surprises at the end, I guess. And it's not so much that it's a shot list, it's just so that I understand what they are expecting from me, and they understand what they're expecting back. I feel like there's like moments that happen on a wedding day that I know I'm going to want to nail. And I just know that those are the ones that I need to control a little bit more. So the one that always comes to my mind when I'm talking about this is the father of the bride, or like a family member of the bride coming in to see her for the first time. And I always know that if I don't control that situation a little bit and I just let it happen, then I could be like over the other side of the room, and like dads come in and they're already having a hug, and I'm like, oh Jesus, like it's fine. So I just need to make sure that I know when it's going to happen, that the bride is stood in one fixed position, and that I know like where everybody is going to be at a certain time. And then that for me is like, okay, done. And I'm happy with the way that that's kind of panned out.
So you mentioned it earlier on, like you've got two kids. How's the work-life balance with that?
It's hard. Yeah, it's really, really hard.
So how do you manage the whole workload around family?
We're very, very fortunate in that we have family quite close by who have always been really supportive of both of our journey throughout this whole process, and understanding of the fact that we're going to need childcare most weekends. So, we know that we wouldn't be where we are now, basically, if we didn't have that support from them. So obviously we're really grateful for that. But in terms of the editing and everything else, we obviously have two children at home a lot. We have a relatively small house, so we can't hide away from them. So we do we do all of our client calls when they've gone to bed. So from 8 o'clock onwards, we're pretty much every single night of the week. That's when we talk to our clients, either new clients or existing couples who want to talk about what's going on and logistics and stuff for their day. So we work quite late. All of our editing then is done after the client calls. So quite often we're going to bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Ben came to bed at 2 a.m. last night, and then was up at 5:30 with the little one. So yeah, it's hard and it's really, really tough. But I think we both understand that the position that we are in the industry that we are in, is just like, we're super fortunate to be where we are, and everything that we do is for them. So we're it's a very short amount of time that they are little, and we want to do everything that we can in order to, have a great life with them, I suppose. So
can't be easy with younger kids like that when you're both in the wedding industry.
Yeah, it is intense, and we, like I said before, we're also in like a relatively small house. So we've both got our workstation set up in our lounge, which is also a playroom, which is also the dog's bedroom. So we're all very much on top of each other in here. But it's lovely, and we're in such a lovely industry, and we're not doing anything like saving lives or anything like that. It's nice work, and we're very, very grateful to be able to do it. And I also think, a bit like what you said, just the fact that we can drop Luna off to school and pick her up every day, and we don't have to we don't have to use the after school club facility that they've got at school, because we can just be there at 3:15 every day to walk her home. And I love that we are able to do that for her. And I'm sure that at the moment she doesn't necessarily realise that it's even a thing. Yeah. But later on in life, she probably will appreciate the fact that every single day mum and dad were there, to pick her up from school. And I think that that's really special. I really like it.
Oh, it is. And I know you've got loads more stories about like growing a business with babies and all the rest of it, but we'll save them for another day.
Yes.
I just want to finish with, if you could give one tip or one piece of advice to somebody starting out in wedding photography, what would it be? It's
not that deep. Just, it's supposed to be fun. So just go and do something, and they will come. If you put stuff out there, people will come. Amazing. Thanks for chatting to me. Thank you so much for chatting to me. And thank you also for having me on the panel.
Yay. Good one. Nice one. Well, no, thanks very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon in real IRL. And take it easy. See you soon.
See you soon. Thanks.